players had to face the pressure, the anticipation, but they have delivered when it really mattered. A squad that have had questions thrown at them all season, 4 seasons to be fair, when they maybe haven't stood up and haven't delivered when it's counted. Well, Sean Everitt's side have this evening. They had it in their hands, and when Cardiff were beaten in Cape Town earlier, it gave them the opportunity, and they did not look back. The final score at the Hive, Edinburgh 47, Ulster 17. Well, they had a job to do. They've done it. It is a night to celebrate for Edinburgh. They have playoff rugby. And does that answer a few of the questions, John, that have been thrown at this squad?
I think so. We talked about it before the game. That Munster game over in Limerick, I think it was February, March, seemed to be the turning of the corner. There's been a few hiccups along the way, but when the game breaks up, there's so many good parts to their game. Yeah, they're possibly not the finished article. There's still some error in their game, but compared to where they were early in the season, they seem to be trending in the right direction. Their big players are standing up. The back row is spearheading a lot of that. Darcy Graham at the heart of so much good about this Edinburgh team. Look, like I said, a bit of a ways to go, and the draw will be cruel to them regardless of where they're going, but they're a team that's trending in the right direction. They seem to be enjoying themselves, all smiles at the moment, and a thoroughly deserved win this evening.
It's a bit of a strange one because last season they had that huge disappointment in Treviso. They finished with 49 points. They finished with 49 points again this time. This year they've only won 8 games. Last year it was 11. But it's those bonus points, and we talked about it all through last season, where they didn't accrue enough bonus points. Only 5, only 3 try bonus points. This season, as we've seen tonight, with the try line there, they have been on fire at times.
Yeah, they have been, and they're a handful when their attack game gets going. They're very impressive, and the 35 points to 5 in that second half, Rory. And let's be honest, they probably went in at half-time a little disappointed with how they played and couldn't get a really strong foothold in the game. But you know, if they can turn it on and Hamish Watson's playing well and Ross Thompson can keep pulling the strings, they're going to be a test. They've went away from home this year and won, but it's just about getting into the top 8, and that's certainly an improvement on last year, and you got to give them a lot of credit.
Talk about a little bit about your old team, Ulster. They've talked this week about its building for next season, isn't it? There's a change in the coaching setup with Willie Falloon and Mark Sexton coming in, and now Richie Murphy is really beginning to put his bits in place.
Yeah, he is, and like he came in at the tail end of last season, or third part of the season really, and results improved straight away, but you're always going to get that bounce with a new coach, a fresh voice, players really sapping up everything that he's laying down, but it has stagnated a little bit, you must say, this season. There's been a couple of injuries along the way, but you've got to deal with that. All teams have to do it, and you know, they've got to take a long hard look at themselves. They're right down at the foot of the table, only 2 away wins, beaten at home on numerous occasions, and it wasn't that long ago that Kingspan was an absolute fortress and all teams hated to go there, but it's a bit of an easier place to go these days. So yep, it's been a tough old ride this year, and hopefully next year is just a little bit better.
For Edinburgh, do you think, when you look at the talent that's available in this squad, okay, they've made a European semi-final, they will have Champions Cup rugby next season, which they've been starved of for a while. Should playoffs be the baseline for them? Should they now be looking beyond that?
Quite possibly, but you know, Rory, you and I had a chat half an hour before we come on air about some of the teams that are, you know, almost guaranteed a top 5 or 6 in the URC, the Stormers, the Bulls, the Sharks when they're on form, Leinster of course, Glasgow. So you know, there's so many teams fighting for that 5, 6, 7, 8 spot, and you know, Edinburgh are one of those teams this year, and that's what they got to be aiming for. And if they can keep going in the right trajectory, then who knows, maybe a year or 2 down the track they might have a home quarter final here in the URC.
Who do you think they would be eyeing up in the quarterfinals, where they have to go away thinking, well, it's tough, but we might just have a chance?
I don't know, it's knockout rugby. It is, and we've seen brilliant teams over the last couple of seasons get bowled out, and we've suffered shock defeats, and there is absolutely no doubt that there will be a shock somewhere, whether it's the quarter-final or semi-final. There's always one, and why can't it be Edinburgh that does that? So look, they'll just enjoy the victory tonight and roll on, and hopefully they don't have too far to travel for that quarter-final.
Well, that is the nice thing, that they have got their job done. They can sit back and wait for the results as they come in. Munster still leading against Benetton in Cork tomorrow. The Sharks host the Scarlets, who are the other team battling for that position. And we can now hand down to Connie, who's with the BKT URC Player of the Match, Magnus Bradbury.
Magnus, congratulations. Hamish, I'm going to let you do the honours if you don't mind.
Well done, Maggie. Cheers, Maggie.
Such heartfelt words. Yeah, do it properly. Right, you said to me just a couple of minutes ago, can we make this quick? And I get that, because you want to go, you want to enjoy this moment, and no wonder. Congratulations though, top 8, how are you feeling?
Fantastic. I mean, we had a job to do, and we delivered the job. Everyone delivered their jobs today, and it's, as a collective, it was brilliant, but I don't actually know what the crack is regarding the table, so that's why I want to go over there and find out. But,
that's you.
Yeah.
That's, so in terms of we don't know exactly in terms of the standings, but you're in it, most importantly. And for you today, you're right, each and every one of you did exactly what they had to. 2 tries for you in particular, though. It feels as though the last couple of months your form is just getting better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's the team's just growing from strength to strength. It's a cliche, but the training's competitive, that's the main thing, and we're demanding more of each other, we're demanding higher standards from each other, and like, you've got senior boys like Hamish and Gilco, who've got 200 caps, they're getting called out by academy boys who are not doing their job in training, so it's a great atmosphere to be in, it's a great collective push, and hopefully we're going over the next step now.
Knockout rugby, I feel as if you've been used to that the last few weeks. You're in the mindset of it. How far can you go?
Say that again, sorry?
How far do you reckon you can go, given the fact the last 2 weeks has been knockout rugby after knockout rugby?
You're trying to trap me there. We'll just take it week by week. We'll see who we draw in the quarter-finals, and I think we've got a couple of days off and we're back at it. So it's
nice one. Go and enjoy it.
Right, thank you very much.
Cheers, Magnus.
Well, Magnus Bradbury, 2 tries for him, outdone by Darcy Graham, who scored a hat-trick with 2 late scores. And now we can head down to John, who is with Jamie Ritchie, I believe.
Yeah, hi guys, thanks Rory. I saw Jamie before the game and I said, if you win, I'm going to grab you afterwards, and we'll get to the emotion of today, but job done, amazing night at the Hive and in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't think it's quite sealed yet, but yeah, I mean, we've done all we could. Oh, awesome. We've done all we could, and we knew we needed to get 5 points tonight against what we knew Ulster would be coming with a tough team with nothing to lose. So yeah, job done, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, a team that seems to be trending in the right direction. I know you'd want to be further up the table, but you certainly seem to be going in the right direction. Talk us through the game tonight, because for me, the turn in Edinburgh has been around the defence, spearheaded largely, in my opinion, as a former back rower, by the back row.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that we feel that we can rely on in terms of how we want to play. Like, we know that we're defending well at the moment, and we're creating opportunities to score off turnover, which we're trying to improve over the last couple of seasons, and I think you're seeing that come out now.
We're going to talk about it. You've got a lot of screen time coming off the bench there. Big ovation from the crowd. Your last home game at the Hive, not your last game, thankfully. Talk us through a bit about the emotion of what that would mean to you this evening.
It's hard to put into words. Like, I've been here since I finished school since I was 17 years old, and it's been my whole adult life, and I've absolutely, this place has been, yeah, my family, my adult mates, like my whole adult life. So yeah, it's pretty emotional, but yeah, no, I'm glad that we got the win, and I can enjoy it with all my best mates.
Well, that's it. You say this has become your home, and you'll be delighted it doesn't finish here. I mean, the sense of pride for you to be your home club town, to then be able to go and finish the season. You'd like to finish at home. You're not going to get that, but I saw Hamish Watson had a few words to him. I'm sure you won't tell us what they are, but you can clearly see from the players, from the screen time, from the fans when you came on. So for me, someone who used to play with you, well done, mate. enjoy the next game and enjoy the next chapter. Cheers, Jamie.
Just great scenes here at the House Stadium. All the players took a lap of honour. Some of the kids, some of the families with them as well. The crowd cheering for Pierre Schoeman. Those are not boos, do not worry. But look, we have so much more to chat about. Make sure you do join us after this. We'll have all the analysis and more reaction coming up. Goodness me, and joining us, Sean Everitt. Sean, wow, what an evening. First of all, congratulations. You guys needed to do a job. You did it. You booked yourself a place in the playoffs. How on earth are you feeling?
Yeah, it's been a pressure 9 weeks, to be quite honest. The logs have been so tight for a long period of time, plus in between we had the European games as well. So we're used to knockout rugby. I'm just proud that the boys pulled it through the way they did in the performance that they put in, especially in the second half. That's how we want to play the game, and some brilliant tries scored, so happy for the boys.
Yeah, how hard is it to put it all together at this point in the season when the pressure really is on?
I think you need practice at it, and we certainly had enough pressure on us from, like I say, 9 weeks ago. So yeah, the boys just believe in themselves, and sometimes rugby's domino effect. We just need a couple of wins and then you turn the corner, and it's the same if you lose. So you get momentum when you're playing well, and that's definitely what's happened to us.
Certainly.
Sean, tell us a little about Darcy Graham. Has there have to be an arm around the shoulder since the Lions selection? Have you had a chat to him? Obviously, He's played brilliantly for you for the last couple of seasons. So good for Scotland, and then obviously he gets left out.
Yeah, selections are tough, especially the Lions tour when it only comes around once every 4 years. Darcy has been in good form for Edinburgh, and he was in good form for Scotland as well. I know he didn't play all the Six Nations games, but every time he puts on a rugby jersey, he tends to turn something out of nothing, and he's a real magician out there with his footwork and the work rate that he does. So yes, it is disappointing for him. What we're just talking about is that you'll never make it better, but he is still young enough to make the next one, and you've just got to keep on fighting, because the nature of the sport is that there could be injuries, and he's the next one in.
Absolutely. Sean, I was going to ask you, you touched on it just before about when you saw the fixture list and the run of games you had, in particular against some of the South African teams, you had Bath, the European stuff. Initially, you would have thought, wow, this is going to be a tough run-in, but I think looking at the way you're playing, the way you're trending, do you ever feel that's almost been a benefit towards you?
Yeah, you don't want to go through adversity to benefit from anything, but it is. I think playing the South African teams, we had to up our physicality, and over the last 6 weeks, it's been part of our DNA. The guys are actually enjoying it. We didn't get results against the Sharks and Bath, pretty close. We ran Sharks until 78 minutes. We were ahead, but we handled their physicality, and it's something that the boys are proud of.
It's just on that physicality, the defensive performances. Look at last week. We talked about it before the game. The attitude at the breakdown. In particular, that your back row, I think, has been outstanding. Not just every so often you get a game where all three are outstanding. I think you hope a couple might be every game. I feel like every week at the moment, your whole back row is performing. Yeah,
I thought Maggie tonight, if I can call him out, he was outstanding tonight. Every time he carried, he went forward, and he was rewarded with a try. We've got good competition in our back row with the youngsters coming as well. They're still young, they're 2021. But if you go back to the Munster game away, we had the same back row starting then that we had tonight. Unfortunately, Jamie had concussion in the previous game and couldn't train fully and couldn't do contact on Tuesday. So it was easy for us to start Ben Muncaster, Hamish and Maggie. And Hamish has been outstanding over the last 6 weeks too.
Sean, you mentioned in the week that you weren't just playing for this season. This match just wasn't for this season, it was for next season as well. You've now secured a spot in the top 8, so that means Champions Cup. How important is that to Edinburgh Rugby?
Oh, it's very important. We want to measure ourselves against the best, and it would have been great to win the Challenge Cup, and it is a really good tournament. But you want to be in the A-League, and that's where we are now. We want to test ourselves against the best. And sometimes, you live on hope of making the quarterfinal, and maybe you don't make it, but there's so much else at stake. The fans want to see us playing against Toulouse, Toulon, Northampton, Bath, etc. more often. So, we owe it to them as well. We've been absent from that competition for a couple of years now, and we're back in, so that's great.
You had a record crowd tonight as well. The atmosphere, we were just talking about it before we had a chat. Yeah, what did you make of it? It's been so great for the last few home games here, certainly.
It's such a pleasure playing at Hive, but the guys deserve the support that they've got from the fans, and there's an old saying, and it came from William Wallace. He said,
freedom.
People don't follow titles. People don't follow titles; they follow courage. And we haven't won, many games. We do perform well at home, but the way
it's all about the bonus points.
Yeah. But the way we've been playing, we're capturing people's hearts in Edinburgh, and that's what we enjoy seeing.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. Yes. All the very best in the quarterfinals. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Sean.
You passed your
Thank you very much.
one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolute great scenes. If you heard any singing during that interview, there is a Stephen Ferris fan club who unfortunately have just left.
I paid them to come over, they were on the flight with me earlier.
Did you even give them a wave?
Oh yeah, of course I did.
Getting selfies before we came on. Come on. Give it a rest.
But look, let's recap a little bit, certainly of that second half. In the past, we know that Edinburgh have played a better second half than that of Ulster. It was a bit of both from each team, but certainly Edinburgh seemed to go up a bit of a gear.
Yeah, they did. It was what I said at the end of the match, are 35 points to 5, the difference in the second half. And Ulster caused Edinburgh a few problems in the first half. Playing some nice rugby, but just too many knock-ons, penalties, missed tackles. I think Ulster's defence over the last 3 or 4 games has been the big concern for me. Just soak tackle after soak tackle. Jack Murphy at 10. Teams are now starting to target him where they didn't. But you got to give credit to Edinburgh. They scored some silky tries, and certainly that last one from Darcy Graham was probably the pick of the bunch. So, full credit to them. They had a job to do tonight, and they did it.
Yeah, let's take a look at Magnus Bradbury's second try. He picked up player of the match. He was so brilliant tonight, John.
Yeah, he was, and we spoke about it in commentary, and really good that Sean Everitt even highlighted it there. So a lot of the stuff he's doing is maybe not the glamorous stuff. It certainly doesn't look like what Darcy Graham's doing, but it's as valuable. He carried the ball so well tonight, and for a big man, he's probably the target man for Edinburgh, but that makes you the target man for defences. He'd be someone they talk about, that's a player we have to stop. So the great thing about it wasn't just ball carrying. As a young player, he came on, he was a fantastic ball carrier, but now you're seeing the work at the breakdown, his passing skills, the kick chase work. So he's pulling it all together, because he's had a rough couple of years with Scotland selection, in and out of the Edinburgh team, and he seems to have found a groove, a form, which the Edinburgh team are as well at the moment.
Leading the side as well, is that something that we want to see from him?
I think so. He's such a focal point with the ball. I think he gives them so much go forward, and when your captain's leading from the front and everybody else sort of looks over their shoulder and gets in behind him and rallies in behind him. So, you're not just given the captaincy because of how good a player you are. You got to be vocal in the changing room. You got to say the right things at the right time. Don't say too much at the wrong time. He seems to gain a lot of respect from his fellow players. So, it might be a trend that he continues on with over the next couple of seasons. We'll wait and see.
Indeed. Well, another try scorer in the second half, Pierre Schumann. When he scores, because exactly right on
That's
cue.
all I
Thanks
heard
very
all
much,
night,
Fizz. Other than the Stephen Ferris fan club. But look, once again, Schumann using his physicality as he does.
Yeah, he was, and let's not forget he's just been picked to go on the British and Irish Lions tour. And in the position he's playing, you almost don't want to jinx it, but you don't want players like that to get injured. And but the way he's playing, he's not thinking that. You can tell he is throwing himself around the park, and that's why we joke about it, that's why he's so popular here. Puts his body on line, he's so physical, carries the ball well, scrummage well, got penalised a couple of times today, but he's a solid 8 out of 10 every week for Edinburgh.
Yeah, he is. So you just kind of look at Tom Stewart on the line there. He's sold a terrible dummy. Ian Henderson, yes, he has to do better in the tackle, but Tom Stewart, you can't just leave the ball when you're on your own line. The ball is the most important thing. Get on the ball, roll over the line with them, have a goal line dropout. It's just too easy for Edinburgh again tonight. 47 points on the scoreboard. It really isn't a good look for Ulster. And I said that in commentary as well, John, didn't I? Yeah. They couldn't let Edinburgh put a heavy score on them, and they did let them in the end.
Indeed. Well, also Darcy Graham, 2 tries in that second half, a hat-trick overall. He's just like the postman, isn't he? He just delivers.
He does, and I don't even know what to say about him, because it's every week we're saying the same kind of stuff. You just kind of come to expect it. This isn't a given score. There's a bit of work to be done there. We saw that the last try was absolutely stunning from a team perspective, but his first try was outstanding individual try. The second one was just a great piece of finishing in pretty tight quarters. His last try was just sensational team try as the game started to open up. This is where I'd love to see this. Edinburgh very attritional as the game started, but they show they've got the skill set and the players and the confidence. You see, when you've got players like Harry Patterson, who's on the left wing, off his wing, supporting an offload on the right-hand side of the pitch, and Darcy Graham following up, you know you're a team that certainly know how you're trying to play the game and how the players inside and out of you are gonna perform. So that's a great try to see from an Edinburgh point of view, full of confidence, because they'll need to be. You know, regardless of where they go, they're going to go away from home. It looks like either to potentially the Sharks, potentially the Bulls, potentially Leinster.
Yeah. It's going to be a top 3 team, most likely.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like it's easy to have all smiles today, big crowd, lots of emotion around the guys that are leaving. They've got to carry that on and not just park the emotion. They've got to bring the emotion and not be happy with, oh God, did we save our season by coming 6th?
Yeah.
That can't be the end of it for this Edinburgh team.
Yeah, let's talk about actually some of those players who are leaving, because there's obviously came out, it was confirmed that there were 12 in fact. It's a hefty amount leaving Edinburgh, and some big names as well.
Yeah, some big names, some big experience, and you know, even when Rory was calling the players, the substitutes on, every time he seemed to call a player on, it was their last game. You know, and he was going to Montpellier and he was going to Perpignan. And yeah, every club goes through it, but it just seems that even more so here at Edinburgh. I'm not sure, John, what the reason for that is. Is it down to budget, not being able to keep players on? Are they looking a bit of turnover to bring some of these new guys in that Sean had talked about? But
yeah, there's probably a bit of everything. And I think someone like Jamie, I think it's a great move for him. He's been at Edinburgh his whole life. There's more to rugby than just Edinburgh rugby, and I think that's a great experience to go and do that. So I think a lot of the guys moving on, a mixture of guys that are maybe coming to the twilight years of their career. There's a few that are maybe looking for new experiences. There's guys that maybe aren't offered contracts, and Edinburgh and Glasgow are certainly trying to encourage more homegrown players into the setup. So I think it brings an opportunity for Edinburgh. You've got to bring the next group of these players through. Sean Everitt touched on there's some really exciting youngsters coming through from the under-20s. Freddie Douglas obviously got capped for Scotland and is someone to really keep an eye out for. So there's some new guys coming through. There's still a core of this team that's got vast experience, and they'll need that next year. So I'm excited to see who they're going to sign. They're going to have to bring some players in. If you're losing 12, you've got to bring someone in. It can't all be kids. So exciting times.
And what about Ulster then? I mean, it's tough to draw.
Not just keep talking about that.
I know, I took a big breath there, Fez, because I mean, it's tough to draw positives from that. We were speaking about it before we came on air, and last season was tough. This season's got even tougher, and it's hard to feel positive around it.
Yeah, no, it is, and like I gave him a bit of a kick in last week post game. That it was just unacceptable the way they couldn't get a foothold in the game at all against Munster, couldn't score a point, so passive. And I'm not saying that they rolled over, but it just didn't look like a performance that was full of intent and conviction at all. And I seen a bit of that tonight, certainly in the first half, but it seems to be when they go more than a score behind on the scoreboard that they just look so deflated. They're looking around for big players. They're big players at the minute, the likes of McCluskey.
Yeah.
He isn't really where he was at the start of the season. Izuchukwu didn't really get much space, did he, tonight in the back row?
Now you bigged him up as well.
Yeah, I know. And Henderson, who's obviously been out for so long, since October, has come back and played a couple of games. Just couldn't get a big involvement. So it's tough times. And what's next year going to look like? Well, I'm not have to.
A shrug of the shoulders.
I actually don't know how it's going to look next season. That's the worrying thing.
Of positivity for you right now. Ulster got a try in the second half. It was a bit of a steal. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it's, you're kicking me when I'm down here, like big time.
It wasn't my decision.
Yeah, look, it was a bit of good fortune because it was an Edinburgh turnover, a little pop up off the ground. I think it was actually trying to get Darcy Graham again, and Jude Postlewaite, who didn't stop trying all night long, gets himself in for a score, but
too little too late.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Which is the story of the season, really, because they lost 4 out of their opening 7 games. And I mean, Edinburgh, to be fair, didn't have a good start to the season either. They had a tough fixture list, but then somehow they've managed to almost peak right at the end when they've needed to.
Yeah, they have. And Stevie touched on it. You're looking at the big players in your squad and your team to front up when you need it in the big pressure games. And I think maybe that's the difference for Edinburgh. You look at the Darcy Grahams of the world, Wes Houston, the back row who we spoke about, Pierre Schoomans. They're big players, experienced international players who are fronting up and giving them focus, or giving them direction, or giving them, gain line, physical, all the stuff you want at this time of the season, giving them structure. Ross Thompson's coming onto form, so that's what you need from your big players. So they've managed to ride the storm of the early season disappointment. They've managed to ride the storm of people saying, or question marks
very much so
around them. So that's what you've got to say. You learn from adversity, and Edinburgh seem to have done that.
Indeed. Well, I've just heard that it's full time over in Cork. Munster are victorious, and that means 30 points to 21, and that means that they have now gone one place above Edinburgh, so they are in 6th. Do not worry, Edinburgh fans, you have still qualified for the top 8. But that is how it stands ahead of tomorrow. So, my goodness me, I think it's such a great advert for the URC, how tight this run-in has been. What do you think?
Yeah, every year, there's always going to be disappointment because a team misses out. Wasn't it the Lions last year? It looks like it's going to be Benetton this year, just miss out. Cardiff obviously as well, but yeah, it's gone right down to the wire, and that's the way you want it. You're always going to have those 3 or 4 teams that are just a little bit better week in and week out, have bigger budgets, bigger squad depth, and the other chasing 4 or 5 teams, can hopefully get themselves in there. But let's roll on to the quarterfinals next.
Roll on indeed. Well, on that note, let's roll on to what is coming up this weekend, that's for sure. The Bulls take on the Dragons, that's tomorrow at 1:30. Then it's Everitt versus Connacht tomorrow at 4:55. Leinster versus Glasgow Warriors tomorrow at 7 p.m. Then in the top 14, Toulouse face Racing tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Premier Sports Rugby. And then it's the finals weekend, EPCR Challenge Cup final, Bath v Lyon, then Investec Champions Cup final, Saints versus Bordeaux, Scottish Cup final, Aberdeen v Celtic. Well, what an evening it's been. Edinburgh have made it to the top 8 of the URC for the first time since 2022. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely evening.